town of Superior has chosen Vargas Landscaping to repopulate the missing pollinators that were consumed in the fire, as well as their habitat. As part of the community involvement, we've got different groups that are coming out and going to help us do this, but today is kind of the kickoff, and we have the city of Superior here represented by their forestry people and Alex Vargas himself. So what we're trying to do is create habitat for the native bees. Not the honeybee that everybody's so familiar with, but with the native bees that were here before honeybees were brought here during the conquest. Native bees prefer to either dwell underground or in straw-like material from reeds and different plants that leave a hollow cavity as they age. Our attempt to recreate that in a manageable way is using straws, and we can put these out, they habituate them, and then we can move this like seed to another location. And this is the seed that's going into this spot. And we were fortunate enough to be donated all of these by the Thomas Theobald family, who was a famous beekeeper and the originator of Boulder County Beekeepers Association. And he managed and kept native pollinators, and they said that they would prefer to donate them for this effort in his memory. So that's just what we're doing. These are blue orchard bees and leaf cutter bees and squash bees. So it's those three mainly. We have different release mechanisms here to allow them to free fly out, but we're going to be sliding these into the holes that we're drilling right now. This kind of represents the first major undertaking by a municipality to take care of the pollinators that were displaced in a fire. And we know from experience that the pollinators present have a huge impact on the potential flower bloom. So we expect to see about a 60% increase in bloom here after these guys take off. If you had only honeybees here, they don't work the same plants and crops, so you wouldn't get the same benefit. Although this might sustain a honeybee hive, and it might be a good idea to do that too, we're getting started with the native ones. I think this represents the first time this has really been attempted by a municipality. Beekeepers have been doing this as kind of guerrilla operations for a long time, creating habitat and down timber. This wood has been burned and compromised, and they've carefully selected which trees they want us to do this in. And as we do it, we're going to kind of survey for different phases going forward too.
Hello, this is Alex Vargas with Vargas Property Services. We're here today doing a second look later on in the season of a pollinators project, a native pollinators project that we've been doing for the town of Superior. We're here assessing how strong our inaugural pollinator program is going to be and its viability for the future.
You have flood damage. The holes that were not in the flotsam path of that high water have about an 80% survival rate. And that's a combination of blue orchard bees, leaf cutter bees, and squash bees. And they're doing pretty good, notwithstanding the flooding. And we can see signs of their activity here in the foliage, the little cut circles in a lot of the plants that they use to line these holes. And I think we did pretty good. If you look around here, this was all just burned, crispy fire scar, and now it's hard to see where there was fire except a little bit of this stuff. This turned out better than a lot of other ones. It would be hard to recreate the percentage of acceptance at 80%. This is pretty good, really good. And that's a good indicator of the health of this habitat and the variety of forage and just the quality of this environment. It's a very healthy environment. Water, cover, undisturbed earth for the ground nesters. So it's a really good spot and a perfect place. There's a few straws left here. That's how we planted them and slid the straws in. They've emerged. Here's one that's filled up. Again, we may extract that to move it to another location. You can see the earthen plug in there.
That one's a mason bee, right?
Probably. And the leaf cutters don't plug always with leaf. They line it with leaf. And the blue orchids don't always plug it with mud. They call them mason bees because of that. Sometimes they use it the other way around. This is a good spot to see how they've filled some of the straws, but they've also filled some of the holes. And this was up high enough. You can see the flotsam down here, but it didn't destroy these. We should put a beehive in this hollow, huh?
Yeah.
So what's the benefit of reintroducing pollinators that were displaced by the fire? And really, it's easy to quantify because if we took before and after pictures, you could really see through the bounty of the land that we're seeing here now that there's been a lot of small insects at work here. And the blue orchard bees, the leaf cutter bees, these ultra green bees, squash bees, and a host of others all help this happen and happen at a much quicker rate. We know that in the absence of these pollinators, this recovery takes a lot longer. And the benefit is it's not any one species of plant, it's the whole ecosystem starts to sing at a much quicker pace than it would just in a normal recovery plane. The water doesn't run off, it doesn't scar the land as much, it helps preserve what's left after the burn. And the best thing that Superior did was get Vargas in here early so that they could take an assessment of what they had to work with, select the right pollinators to go in here, and get them introduced in time for their spring hatch. I think we even caught some of that on film. As we were seeding this area, the bees were coming out to start doing their job. And I think clearly it's really paid dividends here. You wonder how many people recognize what's going on, but when you look across here and you see dragonflies and bees and people and kids and dogs and everything else, you realize that this isn't by accident. The city of Superior puts a lot of effort in to having this kind of a place to live and raise your kids. So I think it's going well. It's time, effort, and energy well spent.
It's our goal at Vargas to make sure that we maintain the robust and sustainable park system that we've put so much hard work in, and so has the town of Superior, to build and maintain throughout the years. This is the first step in what hopefully is a long and fruitful process of reintroducing native pollinators into the greater Colorado area, not just the town of Superior. But this is a historic moment that we had the unfortunate fire, but the blessing and the silver lining of being able to put such a program into place. We're really hoping that this becomes a model for different municipalities throughout the state and hopefully throughout the country and even the world. Pollinators are an important part of our ecosystem and the very survival of humanity. It's a passion project for us here at Vargas Property Services, and we hope to be spreading the news of native pollinators as far as wide as we can to whoever will listen.